President Moon Jae-in addressed the Swedish Parliament less than 2 hours ago, proposing 3 kinds of trust that must be built between the two Koreas to achieve peace on the Korean Peninsula. The president also made some pending requests to North Korea, urging the reclusive regime once again to show its willingness to completely denuclearize to the global community. For more on President Moon's speech, as well as the current status on denuclearization talks, Dr. KIM Hyun-wook of the Korea National Diplomatic Academy joins me once again in the studio. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
So what was your overall assessment of this speech? Do you think President Moon Jae-in made some stronger remarks than you expected?
Yes, I think it was stronger than his Oslo speech. In Oslo, he just focused and stressed the peace, the concept of peace. And what kind of peace is that? It's a very active peace, so that it can change what's going on in the Korean Peninsula and also the relationship with neighboring countries. But I think in Sweden, Stockholm, I think he went further to give a very clear message to North Korea. I think he gave a very clear message to North Korea to come back to a dialogue. Dialogue is something that North Korea has to do right now. I mean, even though trust is also important, because he thinks that the lack of dialogue at this time is because there has been no enough confidence building between North Korea and the United States and North and South Korea. But nevertheless, he delivered to the North the message that notwithstanding there is a lack of trust, North Korea still has to come back to a dialogue to keep its promises for a nuclear dismantlement and implementation of peace regime, which he thinks would ultimately lead to the sanction relief and restoring the peace, restoring trust in the international community.
Now, as you've just mentioned, if North Korea shows the global community its will to denuclearize, President Moon Jae-in said that the sanctions could go away. Mm-hmm. How do you think North Korea will react to this?
I think it's important. It's the same messages delivered by South Korea and the United States. For the sanctions to be relieved, there should be, measures by North Korea, sincere and serious measures to denuclearize itself. And I think, there have been some, different, requests by both sides to the other. Even though the U.S. has been mentioning that there should be a denuclearization first before sanctions to be relieved, North Korea thinks that there should be sanctions to be relieved first before denuclearization. And even the North Korean approach is there should be simultaneous steps, denuclearization and sanction relief together. We witnessed that this kind of approach was something that happened in Hanoi, but still, the U.S. thought that the sanction relief requested by North Korea was too much compared to the Yongbyon dismantlement. So there was not enough, identical, deal, to be made in Hanoi. So I think, it might be possible if North Korea come back and talk and begin a serious working level talk with the United States, even though still there are some gaps between two sides. Maybe dialogue and efforts to narrow the gap would be something that we need from North Korean side right now.
Now, President Moon during the speech also said that if North Korea completely denuclearizes, no one in this world would threaten the North Korean regime and its security. What do you make of that?
This is a kind of negative security assurance given to North Korea, kind of, guaranteeing the security of the North Korean regime. There have been, many times in history that this kinds of negative security assurance was given by the United States to North Korea. Even Geneva Agreement and also Six-Party September Joint Declaration. This kinds of, sentences were included, kind of, guaranteeing the regime of North Korea. So I think this is something that North Korea was accepting and listening and hearing by the United States and South Korea many times. But the question is, would North Korea really think that there would be some measures to guarantee its regime even after denuclearization? Would North Korea think that nuclear weapon itself would be the only measures that guarantee its regime security? I think that's the important point we have to think about.
Now, during a short Q&A session that followed this speech, President Moon said the ultimate goal of his peace process is making a nuclear-free peninsula. And when that is achieved, he said he will also push for conventional disarmaments. What's your take on this?
I think he's describing a kind of big picture in the Korean Peninsula to ease tensions and to make North Korea completely in the situations of disarmament. I think the foremost goal is to make a complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. But I think we, North and South Korea, has already agreed last year in the summit meeting about conventional weapons disarmament and the military agreement, and we are in the process of achieving that. It has not been completely achieved yet. So I think what President Moon Jae-in mentioned was that there are two ways. First, denuclearization, and second, conventional weapons disarmament. These two things should be the ways that we can completely disarm the Korean Peninsula and completely reach the level of easing tensions. I think this would go simultaneously, I think.
He also expressed the importance of inter-Korean exchanges in order to achieve peace on the Korean Peninsula. What's your expectation on the fate of the stalled inter-Korean exchanges or projects?
I think inter-Korean cooperations and economic cooperation issues are something that is contingent upon the sanction relief. I mean, if international communities do not relieve sanctions on North Korea, South and North Korea cannot go further for the economic cooperations. For example, Kaesong Industrial Complex and Gyeonggang Mountain, tourism normalization. All these things are pretty much something that is violating the United Nations sanctions resolutions. So, in order for international inter-Korean relationship, there should be something that's sanction relief should come first, and in order for sanctions to be relieved, there should be some measures of denuclearization by North Korea. So it's very clear that he made it very clear that there should be first move by North Korea for dialogue and denuclearization.
Do you think President Moon Jae-in succeeded in garnering support from the three Nordic nations he visited this time, Finland, Sweden, and Norway?
I think, yeah, absolutely. His ideas for peace process and his ideas for denuclearization process in the Korean Peninsula, ultimately leading to the peace regime, which would be a very firm basis for the peace in the Korean Peninsula and ultimate goal of unification, is something that definitely welcomes the international community support. The problem is that how we can induce North Korea into this kind of process. I mean, it has been always a very important homework for the United States and South Korea altogether, because North Korea Kim Jong-un thinks that still trust is not enough. Still, dialogue is not something that is giving North Korea enough reward. Nuclear weapon is something that can only guarantee its regime stability. So I think at this juncture, it's not the problem of the process of peace, but problem that lies in the North Korean leaders' attitude towards this kind of process.
It's been no secret that President Moon Jae-in has been very actively seeking another round of inter-Korean summit. And just yesterday, he said that holding another round of inter-Korean summit within this month is not physically impossible. How soon do you think the fourth round of inter-Korean summit can take place?
I mean, if we want to have an inter-Korean summit, there should be something that Kim Jong-un can receive from President Moon Jae-in. Now, it's not easy to conceive what kinds of gift we can give to Kim Jong-un. Of course, now the U.S. is not changing its attitude to the North. Maybe North Korean Kim Jong-un might want to use the, point negotiation, card like testing of nuclear weapons and ICBM, so that it can, change the President Trump's posture and attitude towards Kim Jong-un as he has, election phase next year. But recently the U.S. officials and policymakers and experts are making clear that the U.S. President Trump would not be swayed by Kim Jong-un's tests and pressure, even though he has election phase coming soon next year. So I think for the time being, the U.S. and North Korea would just not change their attitudes, but just keep their parallel attitude towards each other. So I think from President Moon Jae-in's perspective, he wants to have kind of summit meeting with Kim Jong-un so that he can change his attitude towards the denuclearization dialogue with the United States. But the problem is that Kim Jong-un, I don't think he would really come and welcome the summit meeting with Moon Jae-in, because he doesn't think that there will be anything that he can get from President Moon Jae-in.
Now, South Korea-U.S. summit will likely take place at the end of this month. Can we expect something big this time from the summit? Perhaps something that can really result in something tangible to resolve the current nuclear deadlock?
President Trump, after receiving a letter from Kim Jong-un, said it's a beautiful letter. Dialogue is something that's possible, but not now. He's not in a hurry. So it means that it all depends upon Kim Jong-un's decision, not that the President Trump will change its attitude towards the North. So I don't think for now there will be something tangible come out that will be an important breakthrough for the dialogue between the United States and North Korea. Rather than that, I think the U.S. would deliver a very clear message to South Korea about its Indo-Pacific strategy in Asia. I think the U.S. wants South Korea to be an active partner in its Indo-Pacific strategy, and I think in that sense there will be some kind of messages that will try to induce South Korea into the U.S. policy on Asia.
President Moon Jae-in will soon wrap up his visit to the three Nordic nations. Now, once he returns home, what's next? What's next for President Moon Jae-in and South Korea as the mediator of resolving North Korea's nuclear issue?
I think that will be such a big concern that the current government has. I mean, now South Korean government is not talking anymore about the possible sanction relief before denuclearization. He made it clear in Norway that what we need now is deepened trust rather than specific policies or declaration. So I think for now, what President Moon Jae-in can do is not much. I mean, talk too much and enough already to North Korean leader and President Trump. Maybe one tip I would like to give to the President Moon Jae-in is that as far as the trust is concerned, there should be more and more people-to-people contact and some track 2 dialogues. That's something we need. Track 1 dialogue, for example, government people to government people dialogue, there's nothing related to the trust building. So I think what we need is just ordinary people to ordinary people, or Congress to Congress, or experts to expert contact is something we need. Of course, the problem is that North Koreans are not coalescing to any kinds of a dialogue proposal by South Korea.
All right, Dr. Kim, thank you as always for your insights tonight.
Thank you very much.
And that does it for this edition of News in Depth. From all of us here at Arirang, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you right back here, same time next week. Have a great weekend.